Girls.
Okay. Hello. So we have Reveka Beyli and Galit Ytzchaki and Karen Shalev, and we want to talk to you about the impact on people who have been kept hostage, people who have been abducted, and what happens when they return. אני אגיד בעברית גם, אנחנו רוצים לקבל בברכה את דוקטור רבקה ביילי מארצות הברית. אתם מכירים, אני מניחה, כבר את גלית יצחקי ואני קרן שלו, ואנחנו רוצים לדבר איתכם ל-15 דקות הבאות בנושא הזה של חזרת שבויים, חזרת חטופים, גם ילדים, גם מבוגרים, ולקבל תמונה יותר כוללת מרבקה, שזה התחום שלה, והיא עוסקת בזה, היה לה ניסיון עם בערך 75 חטופים כבר, ומשפחות שלהם. אז רקע מאוד מאוד רחב. Okay, so let's start. So we have the presentation. Let me just, there you go. So Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Hi, I am Dr. Reveka Beyli, and I'm just going to say sadly honored to be here today, meaning I'm honored to be able to put my 2 cents into helping an internal move back to safety. And then on the other side, I'm sorry that I need to do this, but we're going to go forward with explaining a little. I just want to say my world has been in abduction and situations from natural disasters, etc., where families and communities need to reconnect. So that's why the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children in the US, it connected me with these 2 amazing people. So who you're seeing in front of us is Stephen Porges, who has a theory called the polyvagal theory. An interesting name. But what I really want you to know is Dr. Porges's theory changed my work in 2012 because of its focus on the science of feeling safe. And when we talk safe, we're not just talking about the environment. We're talking about internal, external, spiritual, all of the different aspects that go into safety. And so for you all who are struggling to find vestiges of safety, I imagine, we're going to hope that Dr. Porges's wisdom helps pass the messages out, as well as some of the messages that I have given and worked with children and families coming back out of untenable situations. So anything you 2 want to add?
No, at the moment for me. Oh.
I want to add that you are speaking about the hostage and the families and the cycles of families and friends that are close to them and suffer a lot with them and in a different way, but with them.
Really important, Galit. And yes, in much of my work, it would be a single family. I've done some work with bigger groups where maybe more than one family is involved. But what we've found in our work clinically and also in research is the impact on the entire family and the entire community as you're either waiting for somebody, grieving somebody, or celebrating the return of somebody. So thank you for clarifying that. We can go on, I think. So this is just a little bit, I'm not at home right now, and I'm very blessed to have horses in my life. And so this is me with my horse. And really what we're talking about is the philosophy of learning to shift a body from a state of stress to a state of safety and connection, which can feel impossible when you're in the middle of a trauma such that you all are. And again, I want to let you know, I can't possibly imagine the extent of what you're dealing with day in and day out, but I can tell you that I've worked with a number of populations and families where you know, whether it's a natural disaster, et cetera, where they feel like, how can I possibly achieve safety? And the first step, really first step, is to understand how important human connection is. The three of us earlier about images. So I don't know about the rest of you, but when I look at this image, my heart feels better. So I want to remind therapists and family members that even just if you have access to picture books or beautiful things on the internet of connection, and just that can soothe that, what we'll call, we'll touch on the ventral vagal, the part of our human autonomic nervous system, our nervous system that feels connected and can take a moment of rising out of whatever horrible trauma we're dealing with. So yes, Гаlit, that's a long-winded way of saying yes. I do believe animals are a portal to connection, but if you don't have animals, you also need to know so is the human connection. So we can, yes.
Are you able to clarify, because I don't know the terminology, for example, so can you clarify for anyone who's not familiar with it, what is the polyvagal perspective?
Okay, and we'll be touching a little bit more on it, but just in simple, take away the brain connections and understand this is like simplified down to the simplest piece. It is about the vagus nerve that developed over millions and millions of years, evolved in the body from a what I would say a TSA agent for detecting safety. And early on, the vagus nerve only was responsible for the shut off, the total freeze, the terror that you're going to be seeing and are seeing around you. The people that you see that may look like they're just not in the body at all. And that may be that the dorsal activity is taking over, meaning the oldest primitive response to safety. Remember, everything we're talking about is the internalization of safety, not just physical threat safety, but safety. And then in time, the autonomic nervous system developed to do what I call move and groove or fight flight. That's the sympathetic part. That's that movement part. That's the part that teaches people to run away or to fight or just to even experience play, really connected in with the newer one, the newer version. And please don't get hung up on this. You'll understand more if this is new terms. But the newer part, the social connection of the autonomic nervous system that allows for us to be able to socially connect with other human beings or other mammals. All mammals have this developed ventral vagal pathway. And go ahead.
So when we feel safe, all these very archaic feelings of fight, flight, and freeze are becoming very low, and we can do some connections.
And if we can, and the only relationship I have is I lived in a neighborhood, my house, my home, 3,000 houses burned around me in 3 days. And in that piece, accessing somehow the social connection, compassion, curiosity, that part of the vagal pathway, in some level helped me feel some sense of stability. Initially, I just wanted to crawl into my turtle shell and never come out. And then I wanted to go out and yell and scream at the electric company that caused the fire. And then when I began to allow myself to access social connections with my friends around me, with my horse, my cat was a big one, being able to connect there, then at least I had some access to being able to regulate my own nervous system. And the word co-regulation is also the ability to receive regulation from another person. When we are in the midst of absolute trauma and terror, of which many of you are dealing with, it is very hard to receive connection from another human. For our children, we need to figure out a way to provide a thin strand of connection to them, which may be a cup of warm tea when we're watching them just overwhelmed. We do that for ourselves. But them to feel that kindness from you, if both of their parents are gone, someone in their life who comes in, who just connects into that terror by providing something that activates a healthy dose of what we call ventral activity.
So Rebecca, what do you think about being a therapist, very clinic, in a very clinic situation? What a lot. So
we have to be aware that, okay, a healthy nervous system is a flexible nervous system. A healthy presentation with trauma is a flexible one. And so thinking early in my career, working in a broom closet in an inner city school, where very, very difficult school, there were shootings in the street. It was around, I don't want to give away my age, but it was around the time that crack was quite epidemic in the US. And so people were seeing death regularly. And being able to color with the kid and even allow a silly thing to come up in the room, like, this is a terrible thing. I didn't think I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it because it came out. You can cut this. But I had one of those fart things that go, and with one of the kids, he thought it was the funniest thing in the whole world. And this kid never laughed because his life was not funny. But finding a moment of getting him to silly laugh for just a second. So to answer your question, you have to deal with what you have to deal with. And if you're stuck in a broom closet working with these kids, you have to bring something in that. You cannot just sit there. Sometimes a kid does want to sit with you and just feel with you. But if you can sit somewhere that isn't in a closed, confined space that may bring up terror in their body, look for ways, look for color, look for playing with Play-Doh. What we say in our work, mindful, authentic, and purposeful. Mindful, authentic, and purposeful. Every moment can have a meaning to help get these kids, parents, children, family members out of that shutdown. You cannot shake a kid or a family out of a tortoise shell, right? You just can't. Meaning you can't pick it up and make this tortoise come out, but you can entice them with connection. Does that make sense?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so this is all mammals ask the same question to each other in the world. Am I safe? Is the environment around us safe? Are you safe? Okay, for you guys, am I safe? Oh, iffy at times, and I know that. Is the environment around us safe? You guys don't know all the time. Are you safe? That's the only thing you have control over. To be a safe person for each other. And safe means that it doesn't mean you don't feel, doesn't mean that you might not cry, doesn't mean you might not be overwhelmed at times. But if you are in the therapeutic role, you have to help that child be their own hero in the scary world that they're dealing with right now. So if you are a therapist living in a community where this is all happening around you, you have to be sure that you can be present for the child in front of you to say, I am safe to hold your dysregulation. Not, I'm going to join you in dysregulation. That's not going to help. What you need to be is, I'm here to be with you, to show you that I can be your pillar in this moment. Show your emotions. Let them know. What I mean, not show your emotion. Let them know that, yes, it's really scary. And this is really hard. But you've got to be a pillar. And if you can't do it, tag team out. Find somebody else to step in. You cannot be the hero right now. It's too much for all of you.
In Israel, we don't have now many safe places. You talked about it. We can make a mental safe places.
Nice. Yep.
mental safe places. And when we focus on it, we can be there. It's like being in the potential safe place. Like Winnicott is speaking about. The ways that we can feel safe, although we know that we are not safe now. It's like between reality and imagination, but we can stay there. And with children, we can do it a lot if we can be in this way of thinking and feeling. So,
and what you just said reminded me of something I did with a little kid during the fires. Again, my only context of really grasping. I had them in their mind come up with the thing that they loved, you know, an animal. In this case, it was an animal, and they loved one of the little horses that I had at my ranch. And they would visualize this little horse with them. And then we would go back to when they became really overwhelmed, we would go back to, his name is Mr. and he's obnoxious. And we'd go back to, is Mr. with you right now? Or can you find Mr. in this moment to help bring you back up to a place of feeling a connection? And this little kid loved it. And so remember that. And I know that there's not a lot of safe places, but there are safe hearts. And don't underestimate the power, number one, of the faith that you all have, and number two, the power of the heart and the compassion. So when you can't find safety in the world, help the people around you find safety in the hearts around them.
Thank you.
And I just have to remind you, the one thing we can control is our breath. Breathe. Now I'm going to show you a little quick one that we do with kids, and I actually like it for adults. Everybody has fancy breathing, but a little kid taught me this in a school. So you take your hand up, and what we know when we breathe in, we're releasing cortisol. So we breathe in, that's what we do before we go for a run, you know, whatever that is, or when we're in terror. So we breathe in, and then it's a long breath out. Breathe in. And then take your time going down. One more. And the kids love...
I've got asthma, so I would pass out if I did it that slow.
You know what, Karen? You know what? It's so great you said that, because I have asthma too. And when I first did it, I did 9 breaths in 50 seconds. Wow. Now I can do 5 in 50 seconds. So I love that Karen said that. Follow your breathing, but practice it. And I think the reason kids love it is it's tactile, meaning they can feel themselves in their body. And it's so good you said that, because if you can only do, what we want is 5 breaths in 50 seconds. But as I said, when I did it, because I'm an over-frenzied American, it was like 9. And I was worried about, I could pass out here. I was with the asthma. So just practice what works for you. Kids love this. I love it. You can do it when nobody knows you're doing it. So it's a lovely one. People have other ways. The point is shorter in than the longer out. That's the most important piece. So breathe. That's the one thing you can do. So this is polyvagal theory, and I just want you to have a little glimpse of this vagus nerve. You can't see how it's in the back of the neck, at the base of the neck back there. It is the longest of the cranial nerves and innervates, connects with all of these different organs. The reason these facial nerves are so important is that social connection activates the upper level vagus pathways. So that's really important. So, gosh, one disaster at another. During COVID, you could actually, with the eyes, activate social connection. because through the what we call striated facial nerves up there. Also sound. Now you guys who are dealing with, you know, bombs going off and sirens, you are getting a double dose of fear activation. You already knew that before I said that. But when you look at the vagus nerve, it also goes into the inner ear muscles. I really do want music to be played as much as you can to really, and let your kids, if it's the kids, maybe each person gets to pick a sound or a song. Like music is so important. And we know that predatory low tones activate the vagal nerve back into either the sympathetic or dorsal. So just be conscious of that. When that noise goes off that startles, acknowledge that. And just, it's an opportunity to say, where did you feel that in your body? And so that then you're sort of diffusing the fear factor as well, but then remember to be exposing to other music. Now, the older we get, we change our ability to hear these noises, but so I'm not going to get into that. It's also not my area of competence, but just remind yourself to play the other sounds. Also singing and woodwind instruments, or a kazoo, playing a kazoo, or making those noise activates that ventral vagus complex in the top, which again is the site of compassion, curiosity, communication, and social connection.
I've got a quick question. Can I? So some of the feedback we're getting is that people who have come back, who have returned, or even people who have witnessed some of the horrors, their face looks different. Yeah, it's like there's less expression. It's just different. So yes. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes,
as a sign, as a physical symptom?
It's a dorsal shutdown. Now, I have a dear friend, a dear person in my life who I won't say who it is, but when this dear person gets really angry and upset, he's not in his body. And you can see it in he's a non-violent human, but he's just not there. And in his case, he grew up in a very traumatic childhood. It takes about 24 hours for him to reset. I can't push him, but I love what you're seeing up close and personal is that dorsal, your body is trying to keep you safe, and it's shutting down the social connection pathways. And so you're getting a little polyvagal in front of you. Don't push it. Maybe things like the breathing, and we were talking, Гаlit and I were talking, and Karen earlier about tactile. You know, like if you can give things to sort of try to get them back in their body to play with, things like that. But yes, that's a very, very astute observation. That is the flat affect. Now, remember neurodiversity, people with different neurodiverse temperaments, etc., or it's not the right word, but will also, you can see that in them before the trauma. So don't run around trying to analyze everybody, but just pay attention to the shift. The shift may happen gradually as they return. Yeah,
if you see a change as a result.
And so and even the ones that say, no, I'm fine, and you see that in their face, I think you do, even just with their permission, you know, take their hand and say, this is really scary, isn't it? And they're going to tell you no. When the person I was referring to, when I ask, are they shut down or angry? No, you know, and it takes 24 hours for them to come back and say, you know what, I was in a lot of pain yesterday. Also pain, physical pain, will also cause that ventrovagal to go off a little bit too.
I want to give some, it's not a tip, maybe it's a little tip. When children are going to school, they're still mumbling or something like zimzum. In Hebrew, we said zimzum. We're doing like
it's like a buzzing, yeah.
Like the
humming.
I think that's important.
And then they learn to stop it because it interrupts the whole class. But if we take it back, so we are doing some massage to all these vagus nerves in the face when we do, so we can hum. It's a humming. We can hum a song that we like okay, like this, and then it's tickle the lips, and it's making a massage for all this facial nerves of the vagus. So it's a little tip, but it's huge because we can just let them hum.
Yeah, Gali, that is so brilliant, because it just shows you how the human body wants to return to safety. Oh my gosh, I had to make a note on that. Like, you have these beautiful children who their nervous system knows what to do. So I love the idea of when you come in, we're going to hum together.
We're going to hum together.
And then maybe create a song with the humming, so that becomes the group's connection, because we want to foster connection. But that is the most touching thing I've ever heard, is these kids are coming in humming. Oh.
Yeah, they're humming.
And I'm thinking of a young lady I worked with that had been held captive, she came back at like 11, and you know what? Galit, you're so smart. She hummed all the time, and it was really irritating in the family sessions, but now I get it. Oh, I learned so much from all of you.
Okay, thank you. But thank you for bringing the body. The body is so important here, because usually we think that we have to do some clinic therapeutic and maybe psychoanalyzing, and we just need to give the body to exist again, to remember who we are from the beginning. Yeah, so thank you for this.
Find its way to home. And I think this is why the three of us connected so quickly. I feel like I've known you forever, is that we understood and understand that trauma disturbs the ability to receive co-regulation and access regulation skills. And we cannot talk it through. We cannot make people get there. We have to provide that environment somewhere with safety. Some messages of safety. I know it may seem impossible, but when you look at people in extreme situations, they found messages within. One of my clients found a butterfly ring when she was held captive for many, many years, a butterfly wing. And the moon in the sky was the thing that connected her to the world away from where she was. So we really need to remember that you cannot sit there and try to talk it. And some of these people, we know from research, we know that some people may not need long-term therapy later if we help their body return to safety soon enough. And we know that they're going to keep getting, for lack of a better, hand grenades thrown at their sense of safety with what you're all dealing with now. But we have to believe we can return over and over again to a sense of safety. Let's remember how everybody's nervous system is different. And even though there's, absolutes in the fact that we all mammals have, oh, good, she's here just in time to talk about yes. When you are in a power differential and you have no power to fight against an aggressor, there are, and this is not, you never know what you'll do in this situation. Some people will fight and some people will not, but there is what we call a type of superpower when an individual is able to go into deep terror and then come out and try to diffuse through social connection. Now, we know it doesn't always work, and doesn't mean that if there wasn't successful survival that somebody did something wrong. It just means, in the best words I ever heard a victim survivor say to me is, I had to soothe the savage beast. And in the moment, you're not aware of that. Your body isn't saying, I'm going to manipulate the situation. Your nervous system is saying, we've got to be safe. We've got to be safe. What can we do? And I've learned this from many of the individual that I've worked with that have been abducted into a situation. But again, it doesn't mean that it's something you can plan to do, but it is a way of just trying to help yourself feel safe in a situation where there is no real safety. And it's very confusing to the family and very confusing to the individual who was in this situation. So let's go back to that. The word is appeasement. And I think, Galit, what you just brought up is the individual differences in response. And when you have somebody who comes back where they made friends, so to speak, with the captor, or, you know, had a different piece, they in time will realize for sure that was a survival bond. But you may have family members, as you mentioned, being very angry at them for that, or community members like trying to figure out, why didn't you fight? Why didn't you run? And what we need to remember, again, is this tremendous power of the nervous system that sees hold of our ability. It's not in the brain, and says, this is what I know to do in this moment to survive. So
thank you.
My heart is with you all. And again, I really want to say how deeply it touches me to be of any support. It's not enough, but I'm just honored. And Galit, I'm so honored to know you and be here in any way that I can. So
thank you so much. And you know that I really, you inspired me every day, every day. So thank you. And we will be back, and we're working together now. So, and thank you for your guidance.
Thank you for, as well, you. Okay.